Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. This is Recruit Painting, and in this episode of what I'm painting the new Commissar Yarrick miniature from Games Workshop. I've recently finished painting the 3rd edition 2001 Yarrick sculpt that I posted a few weeks back. I posted that thinking, I might do a tutorial on it, the first Warhammer model that I painted, and then the pre-order for this one came up and I had to do it really, I had to order this one. So I painted the old one anyway because I wanted to get a Yarrick done for our Armageddon campaign that we're doing at Devil Dog Gaming. Shout out Devil Dog Gaming. And so I've already got that one painted as well, but then I almost immediately painted this one afterwards on release. So, and I thought I'd film it as well. So this is probably the most ambitious miniature that I've painted on the channel yet. I've painted lots of Warhammer before and, you know, all the details, etc. But this is the first time I've filmed it. So there's a lot of editing to do. I've got an hour and 20 odd minutes of footage that I'm going to have to edit. So it won't hopefully be that long. You'll be watching a much shorter video. But just bear that in mind when you're watching this one, that a lot of work has gone behind this video. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoy painting it. The miniature's great, to be perfectly honest. Yes, there's scale creep. Yes, there's tactical rocks, but he looks cool. And I'm really looking forward to putting him in my army. So that's enough of that, and I think we should just get started with the video. So do let me know what you think. Do like, comment, share your thoughts on it, and yeah, let me know what you're thinking about 11th edition as well, because there's some great miniatures on the way, so I'm hoping to pick up some more of those as well. Right, let's get started. The channel is now proudly sponsored by Fog of War Games. Do check out the website in the description below, and check out their range of miniatures, paints, hobby supplies, and even their own range of basing materials from the Flock and Forge. Be sure to use code RECRUIT10 at checkout for an extra 10% off your already discounted items. Okay, so the first step is to prime the miniature. So what I've done is I've primed it in matte black from the Colour Forge, and then did a zenithal from the top of Ghoul Grey from the Colour Forge. Not because I wanted the zenithal for any particular underlaying or anything like that with the colour, mainly because I find with the matte black sometimes it can be a bit tricky to spot the details afterwards, so just giving it that zenithal just makes it a little bit easier just to spot the details on the miniature when I'm painting it. So as I said, the plan is, in fact you've already seen it in the carousel video, obviously I haven't done that yet, but the plan is to paint it in the same scheme as my 2001 Yarrick here. So what I did with this one is the first colour I put down was black, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put down some matte black from Vallejo, just because I really like this colour. It's a really good black to paint with, and it's got really good coverage. So that's going to be our first layer, just on the jacket sort of areas first of all. So I've got the matte black loaded up on my brush. This is just sort of a standard size brush. Standard size there you go. Pick these up from AB brushes, I think it's AB brushes. They're on eBay, but they're also at a lot of the war game shows. They've always got a great stand with lots of brushes. This is part of a set. These are Kalinsky brushes. So just going to cover all of the areas that I want in black. So that includes the scabbard of his sword there as well. Okay, so next up is some Mephiston Red from Citadel, and this is just going to be for all of those red details, so just the base coat on all the red details. There's quite a few that I want to do, so his power claw there, sort of the back as well, the pack that sort of generates it, and the belt, and the collar details as well, and his hat as well. So there's going to be a few red details that I'm going to base in now. So we'll start with the claw because that's the biggest one. So just going to get into all these areas here. Okay, so the next colour, once that's all dry, is we're going to start working on the black, and we're going to dry brush some Eshin Grey, just to highlight those raised areas. So I'm going to dry brush it. So normally I'd use my trusty piece of cork, those of you that follow the channel, but I've misplaced it when I had a bit of a move around in my hobby space. So I've just found this random piece of card that's got a nice texture to it. So just going to get all of the paint off there, then do the back of the hand test. There we go. And this is where I regret not sub-assembling the mini, so I might have to go back over some of those red areas, but just going to lightly dry brush just to pick out the raised creases, try and get into every space that I can. Okay, so now I've got a smaller dry brush and I've got Dawnstone, so I'm just going to do a lighter dry brush of those more raised areas. So just going to pick out some heightened sort of points on the fabric, try and be a bit more precise. Back of the hand check. Yep. Okay, so next up I've got a 50-50 mix of Warhammer Medium and Agrax Earthshade. And this is just going to go on all of the red areas, so both the ones that be metallic and the fabric. I'm going to treat them very differently when I highlight them a little bit later on. So just all of those red areas, it's just going to get this 50-50 mix on it. Again, it doesn't matter the areas that I haven't painted, but I'm going to try to be really careful not to cover the or get any of this on the black that I've already painted. Okay, so that's the Agrax Earthshade and Warhammer Medium dry. So as I said, I'm going to approach the two red areas differently. So the metallics are going to get like your traditional edge highlighting. First of all, going back with the Mephiston Red. So just going to go in there with a sort of a chunkier highlight. I don't claim to be good at this at all, but there we go. Okay, so that's the highlights done on the metal areas. You can see there's like a subtle sort of edge highlight because I've gone in with the Mephiston Red first. And next what I'm going to do is I've got some watered down Mephiston Red, and this is going to be for sort of layering on the fabric areas. Now there's not that many that are too visible really. There's the bits that sort of you know, on the inlay of the jacket there, and then his hat. But yeah, so just kind of going to layer the the raised areas more than anything. So you can see it's quite thin. So just going to go over, just kind of build up the layers. So I just thought I'd turn the camera back on here because just kind of doing the collars there, you can see it kind of gets darker the closer into to his face. So I'm just gonna sort of build up the highlight towards the edge, or build up the layers, sorry, and it's the same down here. Okay, so the next colour that I'm going to use is Evil Sunz Red, Evil Sunz Scarlet. I'll put the right name in the video at the bottom below anyway. To highlight the sort of metal areas. So this will go over where the Mephiston Red along the outline is. Just to add another layer of highlights. I'm going to try and be really careful and stay within the Mephiston Red. So deep breaths, and just going to go along the edges here, just to highlight these areas. Okay, so that's that edge highlight done. As you can see, there'll be some little tidy up bits in a bit, but whilst that's on the palette, the Evil Sunz, I'm going to use the same colour but watered down a fair bit to add another layer to the fabric areas, so the raised areas. So it's just going to be within where I layered the Mephiston Red earlier. So you can see, look, it's quite thin. Might even thin it a tiny bit more actually. Just so that I can add another sort of highlight to those red areas, just kind of smooths it out a little bit. So I'll start off with this bit here, look, so you can see just there, just going to go in just at the top, feather it out a bit. Okay, so towards the area, towards the corner of the metal areas now, I've got Wild Rider Red, and I'm just gonna highlight just those corners. There we go. So just finding all the corners, there's quite a few corners on this. Okay, and then finally I've watered down the Wild Rider Red. Similar to what we did earlier with the Evil Sunz, and just going to go on those fabric areas, just sort of, you know, within the highlight that I did with the Evil Sunz with the Wild Rider Red now. So just find the high points and just sort of feather it in, blend it in. It's just going to be within there, look. Okay, so next up it's Rakarth Flesh for the flesh areas. So I'm going to be painting the face with this, and you can just about see the hands there holding the pistol or the storm bolter. So I'm going to try and get into that area as well. So what I might do is just kind of fill it out. So you'll see I kind of did this with this one. You can just about see the hand there. So I'm just going to go for the fingers, and then when I use the wash a little bit later on, it will kind of darken it, so it'll just be a darker area, because you can't really see it very well anyway. So might go in with that first of all, to be perfectly honest. So just going to get into the hand there. There we go. Okay, so now that the Rakarth Flesh is dry, what I've got now is a mix of Volupus Pink contrast and Lamian Medium at a 50-50 mix. I'm just going to use this as a wash. Well,
well, sort of a wash. It's a bit thicker than a wash, to be fair, but this works really well as like a, you know, a sickly sort of skin tone. And with Yarrick having died multiple times, the shading of this colour works really, really well in my opinion, and this is what I'm going for. So I think on the box art it's a little bit paler, but yeah, I want it a bit darker. Okay, so whilst that's drying, I've got the Rakarth Flesh again, and I'm going to use this for the white armour that's sort of around the Aquila that's on his front there, so like a chest plate. So just some like metal areas, just kind of like here and here, and it's the same scheme that I used for my older Yarrick. It's just there, look, you can just see. Once we do all the layers on it, it will come out looking really nice. So I also used this on Lord Solar as well when I painted him a few years back. So again, I'm going to try and be a bit more precise just so that I don't hit the black areas that I've painted. Help others on the camera. Again, sorry about my creaky chair. So just sort of on the edges here, look. Okay, so the Volupus Pink Lamy Medium mix is dry now, so whilst the Rakarth Flesh is on the palette, I'm now going to start layering the skin areas. So get my brush nice and pointy. Okay, so next up it's then just to highlight those flesh areas with Pallid Wych Flesh, so just the high points really. Okay, so now's a good time to get the eyes in. I say eyes, there's one eye, one natural eye anyway. So fewer chances to get it right. So again, if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that I prefer to block it out and then do the small dots in the corners. Just works for me. So you just do what works for you basically. So yeah, so just catching the eye detail there it is. Okay, so for the eye then, I've got white from Vallejo on my palette, and I haven't thinned it. I'm just going to get a tiny amount, make sure my point is nice on my brush, and just go in for those corners, knowing full well that I'm probably going to have to tidy it up. And then with the white there, I'm just going to mix a little bit of it with some water and just pick out the teeth, which, yeah, first that'll be proper white, but then I will wash them. Okay, so next up I've got 50-50 mix of Agrax Earthshade and Lamy Medium. And what I'm going to do is wash the armour here with this mix. I have done a little bit of tidying up just in and around the model, so whilst I had the black on the palette, I painted the visor there just so I can come back to highlight it later when I'm doing the weapon. But now that the Agrax Earthshade is dried, I'm now going to go in to the pale armour areas and just highlight around the rivets and on the rivets themselves. Okay, so I've got black from Vallejo here on my palette, and what I'm going to do is there's like a cord that goes into his eye, and that's what I'm gonna paint in black. Okay, so that's the black done now. You'll notice just with the power claw there, where it meets the fabric, I've also painted that black, so I'm going to do like a black metallic on it. Not sure how I'm going to do it just yet, but I'll come to that in a moment. But what I'm going to do now is I've got Pallid Wych Flesh and an insane detail brush, and I'm going to use that now to highlight the white armor areas, well, the sort of the beige armor areas, so kind of in between the rivets again, a smaller highlight. Okay, so next up is Waaagh Flesh. I'm going to use this to paint the laurels. Now there's a couple laurels on the miniature here, so we've got some on the Storm Bolter, you can see just there. So just gonna try and keep it all in. I haven't actually highlighted the Storm Bolter yet, so if I go over, it's quite easy just to go back in black, so I'm not too worried about going over. Okay, so next up I've got Athonian Camoshade. There we go. I haven't thinned it, so it's going to go straight from the pot, and that's going to be used as a shade on the laurels that I've just painted in Waaagh Flesh. Okay, so next up is Warpstone Glow, and I'm going to be using this to pick out the leaves on the laurels, so about halfway-ish towards the end. So quite a few on there. Okay, and then finally with the laurels, I have Moot Green here, and just on the end, like the very end of each leaf, they're just going to get a dot of Moot Green. Okay, so next up, after the laurels, I'm going to paint these skulls. Now there's a couple of skulls on this mini. Now, obviously on the old one there was, I think, a few more actually on the Storm Bolter as well. But this one's got one on the hat, in between the laurels, and one on the Aquila there on his chest. So what I'm going to do is paint the skulls first, because I want to leave the metallics till last really. So just going to be really careful. I've got a fine detail brush here. I'm just going to fill this in with Rakarth Flesh. So it's like a darker sort of skull base coat or base tone. Okay, so whilst the Rakarth Flesh is drying, what I'm going to do now is base coat all the leather areas, so the holster there and the strap to the Storm Bolter. So I'm just gonna fill those in with Rhinox hide. I'll be using the recipe that I magpied from Rocky Brushes. Okay, so whilst the Rhinox hide is drying, what I've got now is Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use that to shade the bone. So just this skull here, making sure it gets into the recesses, into the eye sockets and the nose. Okay, so whilst the Rhinox hide is drying, I'm back on the Rakarth Flesh, and I'm going to be layering on the skulls. So just going to find those raised areas, keeping the darker tones towards the edge. Okay, so now that that coat's dry, I've got some Ubshanti bone. I was going to go for Pallid Wych Flesh here, but the Shanty bone was just staring at me, so I thought I'd give it a try. Again, just for the bone. So this is just going to be a sort of highlight within the layering of the Rakarth Flesh, so kind of on the brow there of the skull. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'll be following Rookie Brush's scheme for painting the leather. So the way this works is we've now got very watered down Mornfang brown. You can just see there, look, just on my skin. Might even add a little bit more. And what we're going to do is start off on the edges and kind of draw it into the centre of the miniature. So just try and get a point. There we go. So it's going to fill in kind of most of the leather areas. So it's, you know, going towards the middle, but kind of leave a bit in the middle. So next up on the paint scheme is Scrag Brown from Citadel. I think I've mostly used Citadel paints. Oh, hold on. Warhammer colour, not Citadel. So what I'm going to do now is add a bit of a sort of more texture using Scrag Brown onto the leathers. So just with a kind of a messy sort of highlight within where the Mornfang brown is. Okay, so next up there's a 50-50 mix of Shanty bone and Scrag Brown. I'm just going to edge highlight all along the edge. And next up, just on the edges and raised areas, it's just a pure dot of Shanty bone, so just there. Okay, so next up I've got Eshin Grey, and I'm going to just add some tonal difference to the pipe going into his eye, or the wires going into his eye and coming out of the pack here, and also highlight the scabbard for his weapon. So just going to pick some areas really, just on the wires. Oh, I just want to add a bit of variety of colour. Okay, so that's the highlight of Eshin Grey done on the scabbard and on the piping, but also on the Stormbolter as well, on the casing around it. And now I've got Dawnstone, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go towards the edges of the highlights on the corners. I thought, just as I'm doing the piping here as well, just showing you where I'm highlighting, so just sort of within the areas that I've already layered with the Eshin Grey. Okay, so next up on the palette I've got Lead Belcher, and I'm going to use this to fill in all the metallic areas. So there's like the leg brace that he has, the magazine, parts of the Stormbolter, obviously the claw, and the mechanisms at the back there, and this sort of piping as well. It's all going to be Lead Belcher. So I'll start off, I think, with the leg brace, so I need to be careful there. You'll notice as well that I did actually go back over and dry brush that area with Eshin Grey, and then a lighter dry brush of Dawnstone, just because I just wanted to keep it the same sort of fabric colour as his jacket really. So okay, so that's the Lead Belcher down. Next up, there is a detail on the belt, the red belt there, which I want to paint in like a brass colour. So I'm going to use Screaming Bell for this. So just on that little detail here with the skull. Just going to paint that one in. First off with Screaming Bell. Okay, next up is the gold details, and there's the Aquila on his chest that I want to do. So where we painted that skull in the skull or in the bone colour, I just around it want to do the wings in gold. So I'm just going to be really careful here. So come back to recording because there are a few other bits that I've done. So it's like the tassels on his shoulders there, his sword handle, and there is just the trim on his jacket. So just getting that steady hold on the miniature, and then just keeping it as still as you can and just gliding the brush along the detail. Okay, so next up, before I do the washes on the metallics, I just want to get some red details in. So I've got the eye here, and then just at the back as well, I want to get some of the details on the pack for the power claw. So there's just a little dot here, just want to pick out some of the colours. Okay, so next up I've got some Warpstone Glow, and I'm going to use that to just pick out this small detail here. Okay, so now with the those colours down, I'm now ready to put a wash on it because I'm going to wash them with the same colour. So this is a non-oil wash with a 50-50 mix of lamy and medium. So it's going to go on all of the areas I want metal, and some of those areas that I've added a bit of colour as well. So for the lenses, it's going to help me get a bit of a glow sort of effect. Okay, so next up, it's Rakarth Flesh shade now on the gold and brass areas. So this is just going on just on its own, no lamy and medium. Okay, so next up I'm just going to start getting some lens flare. Now the eye detail is minuscule on this, so it's just going to be the impression of it really. So just in the bottom area of the eye, and also a little bit of red, a red dot on the center of this one. Then just to finish off the eye detail, I'm going to put the tiniest dot of white on the opposite corner, just to finish off that impression of lens flare. For the green, I have a tiny dot of mute green. Again, just same as before, just a tiny dot in the middle. And next, we're just going to highlight the edges in lead belcher of the metallic areas. So just picking out the edges just with the side of the brush. Okay, so next up is a highlight of Stormhost Silver. So again, just going up on all the edges. Just like that. Also going to use this to pick out some of the scuffs and scrapes that are on the claw. Just give them a really quick swipe. Okay, so next up, there is a detail that I mentioned I've come back to, and that's the sort of the trim where it meets his arm and the claw. And what I've done is I've got a 50-50 mix here of matte black from Vallejo and lead belcher. And what I'm going to do is just subtly highlight just along here, just there's like a darker sort of silver tone. Okay, so the final step with this one, well, on the main miniature anyway, is to dry brush some Stormhose silver on those gold areas. So I found my cork, so I'm just going to brush off that, just do the back of the hand check. There we go, so I'll just start here, just a nice big detail. Okay, so you'll notice that the base is a slightly different colour, and kind of as I was doing it I thought actually I do want to fill in these details around here. So what I've done is I've got a bit of AK Merds, because it's the only one I've got, and what I'm going to do is just put some small amounts of this just to kind of fill up those areas, and then I'll come back and paint over it again. So just going to fill in . Okay, so after the AK Interactive Muddy Ground is dry, I'm going to go back in and paint it with the Eshin Grey. I've got a small dry brush here, well, sort of a medium-sized dry brush, and what we're going to do, we're going to stipple some texture onto the paint. So I do actually need it to have a bit of paint on it, so just trying to get some of the excess off really, and we're just going to check it. So that's the sort of texture I want. See it on the back of the Eshin Grey there. There we go. And it's just picking out the details just to add a bit of texture. Okay, so now I've got Wraithbone here, and I'm going to dry brush this on. And again, I'll probably switch between two dry brushes, sort of a medium one and a smaller one, just to get into those details. So just going to get all of that excess off. There's quite a lot there. And this is just going to bring all of that sort of rock and concrete together.
And after that final dry brush, this is the end result. I'm really happy with how this miniature turned out in the end. It was a really fun miniature to paint. It's got lots of really cool details on it. One thing I'll probably do differently next time is sub-assemble it, so that I can get to some of those details that I complained about without having to worry about, you know, potentially having to redo some areas, which, to be fair, I didn't have to do that often, but that's because I was being super careful. But yeah, if you want a kind of an easier painting experience, you might consider sub-assembling. But if you're in a rush, you're stuck for time, you can build it and paint it, as I've proven in this video as well. So if you've enjoyed this video, if you found anything useful, do let me know in the comments, and please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. I paint a mixture of miniatures, including historicals, sci-fi, and you know, 40k as well. I have got some other Warhammer miniatures that I want to paint down the line as well, whether I do it for the channel. Kind of depends on how much you guys have enjoyed this video, to be perfectly honest. So do let me know in the comments. I do have lots of projects on the go that I do hope to feature in the channel pretty soon, so keep an eye out for those. And yeah, thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.